should be better. Alright, so let's get started. So first of all, what is your main role? Is it jungle, or is this just a clip of you playing jungle?
Sorry?
Is jungle your main role?
Yes, jungle's my main role.
Okay, and is Lee Sin like one of your primary champions? Like, lay out your top 4 for me.
Yeah, for sure.
What are your top 4 champions?
I like to play Lee Sin. I played a lot of Sejuani for a while. Gragas, and then in terms of other champions, it just varies.
Okay.
So I don't really have a top 4. I have top
okay.
3.
Okay. Have you changed any of your champion picks according to 5.13 or 5.12? Have you like developed any of the Rune Glaive junglers, or have you stuck mainly to Warrior and Cinderhulk?
I've stayed with the Warrior and Cinderhulk stuff.
Okay. Just right off the bat, I can tell you that you should definitely begin dabbling. That's for sure. The meta's most definitely shifting away from these types of picks. They're not bad.
I did try the Devourer. I have tried the Devourer.
Oh, the Devourer as well. Yeah, I almost forgot to mention Devourer actually. Yeah, no. Devourer and Rune Glaive, I think, are actually the 2 best upgrades right now, or the 2 best jungling items or champion selections. Although Warrior is not bad, it still is the same place it used to, which is, you can develop early leads really easily. And Cinderhulk still, fills that niche of like you need a really tanky jungler. Also, there are just the meta is shifting. I'll tell you now. It's okay that you're playing other champions, but as the meta shifts away, you're going to find yourself winning less and less games with these champions until they nerf these items, because they are really, really strong. Like really, 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 really strong.
Yeah,
they're incredible. Anyway, so. We'll just get started with the video now. I just kind of wanted to cover that and figure out exactly what your mindset is. Now, when you come into games like this, I don't know what pick you were, but when you're in Champ Select, do you go into it thinking, okay, I'm going to pick Lee Sin regardless, or do you pick a champion like according to your team's needs? How do you go into Champion Select?
I tend to try and pick based on needs. I think like if we're definitely lacking in AP, then I'll go with some AP stuff. I went for the Lee Sin just because I thought that Fizz was going to be going AP as well as Shoyak. I think Fizz ended up going AD in that game.
Okay. All right, no, that's a good decision then. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure you're thinking about that during Champion Select. You'd be surprised how many people don't. And it's a really important thing is during Champion Select, not going in with that tunnel vision of like, oh, I really want to play Sejuani this game, and instead being like, oh, well, how can I actually? If you're really determined to win, then the best way to do that is to increase your win percentage, and this is it. There is a little bit of random events whenever it comes to playing. Eliminating this is easy. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm gonna actually mute the audio for now. Okay. I know that you said if there's anything where if there's any type of decision that we want to like hyper analyze or like get into your mind for, we can turn on the audio for it.
Got it.
But we'll take that as it comes. So make that decision later. Okay, so you start topside actually. Is that okay? Interesting. I haven't seen people start topside a lot recently. Is there a reason that you feel it's better to start topside?
I don't know. I like having that red buff early on. Maybe that's just my preference. But,
do you level 2 gank often, or?
Sometimes. I don't think I did this game, but sometimes I do.
Give me like some sort of percentage. Like how often do you think you level 2 gank?
I guess it's not that often. Like maybe 15 or 20% of games.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, I would say already that's probably a mistake. It's not a huge deal. Well, it actually is kind of a big deal, but it's more of a min-maxing kind of situation where. So the reason that you want to start bot side over top side is, top side you're going to end the clear faster. You're going to end the clear healthier. Now that's relevant on some junglers, like Nidalee, for example, is a lot better with Krugs and isn't as good with red buff, right? So, sometimes as Nidalee you want to start top side. Sometimes, not even every time. But as Lee Sin, I think I almost every single game want to start the opposite side of red buff.
Okay.
Unless you're specifically level 2 ganking. And now the reasoning for that is one, when you start bot side, you have a longer red buff. So that's the key. That's like the biggest reason. You want the longest. You want red buff for. Okay, so obtaining red buff gives you a window of ganking pressure where your ganks are just stronger. Period. They're just a lot better. It's easier to land kills and easier for your lanes to follow up because that's what red buff does. But having red buff is a limited window, and extending that window into timings when you have double buffs already and you're not doing your initial clear is, just more effective, especially for the Lee Sin style of play, where you're not necessarily worried about clearing the jungle over and over again, more about getting your first clear done, getting your first jungle item, and starting to pressure the lanes and getting that early lead.
Alright.
Because, Lee Sin is destined to scale down, as we all know.
Yeah.
But that's why I would recommend starting bot side, because having that red buff, having it for 3 or let's say 2.5 minutes of ganking is 2 maybe 3 ganks with red buff if none of them go badly, as opposed to starting red buff and maybe only getting a minute, maybe less, maybe not even getting 1 gank off with the red buff depending on how your clear goes. So because specifically the clear that I would recommend would be Gromp, Blue, Raptors, Scuttle, back. Get your jungle item, because you'll have around 480 gold. Jungle item in a health pot. And then you can go straight to red buff, smite Raptors, and do your first gank extremely efficiently. Because you're able to have the Raptor buff and the red buff, which is just crazy. Because you're going to have extraordinary ganking pressure, and you're going to have the ward clear capabilities to do a double up gank. So if you go in and it is warded, you can clear the ward, go clear camp, and come back, and for a fact it's not warded, their trinkets down, and you have red buff, and that's almost a guaranteed kill in a lot of situations.
All right.
So that's the first thing that I would say. Now, just let's fast forward to your clear here. I'm gonna assume you hit neutral minions for the first few minutes, if that's a safe assumption. Mm-hmm. Also, it doesn't hurt your clear too much to start bottom. Having Gromp buff is really strong, even if you're not tanky.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just less bonus help.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's okay. For this game, we're going to take it by this. But let's pay close attention to when exactly your red buff falls off in relation to your ganks.
Sure.
And you'll see that there's a pretty significant difference. Every time that you gank with blue buff this game, after the first clear, we're going to pretend that it's red buff and see how different the ganks might have been.
Got it.
Another secondary reason that the red buff might have been better this game is because top lane is going to be super volatile. Riven versus Fizz is just a crazy lane of just a lot of movement, a lot of pressure, and honestly, whoever gets ahead in that lane is going to snowball pretty significantly because Fizz can destroy Riven, as apparently he does anyway, and Riven can also just destroy Fizz if she gets ahead. So it's really dangerous for the top lane, and so having the early pressure up there is really important. Also to counter gank it and make sure that your top laner doesn't tilt is important. Bot lane, however, has a Janna, which is a lot less gankable and a lot more safe, and so the pressure is a little bit less important, if that makes sense. So you go buff to buff, so that's interesting. You go blue, Krug's blue, red blue, and that's a little bit different. This gank goes well, it looks like. You don't actually get any sums, but yeah, that's okay.
Jinx did pretty well with that.
Yeah, Jinx followed up nicely. At least you now know that bot lane's going to follow up nice. The problem is that you just have a Janna, and I mean, as nice as Janna is to have on your team, it's just not that conducive to a Lee Sin gank.
Yeah.
Who is their jungler? I didn't catch it.
I'm trying to remember.
We'll figure it out eventually, but...
Udyr.
Okay, so...
there he is.
Yeah, there he is. He's gonna
he
get
walked
that.
right by me.
Wow. Okay, huge mistake on his end. That would have been really bad, actually.
And then I made
losing that skull is pretty important.
I made a mistake by going in after him.
Yeah, I think you should live. Ooh, flash a little.
It was close. And then I go in to help with the kill because bot lane's roaming up.
I would definitely not have gone in here. The Q's fine. I think that backing was probably more important. You land both kills anyway, it looks like, so that's okay.
Yeah, we got both.
Honestly, you got those because Jinx played that incredibly well. I mean, realistically, going back in was likely a mistake.
Yeah.
Whether or not it works out or not, that's all right. So that gank there, I just want to see if you actually had red buff for it. You did. So okay, you did.
Well, not
you
much
ended
of a gank, but yeah.
Yeah, well, just for the fight in general. But that means that somebody got double buffs. Or maybe potentially 2 people got double buffs. No, Jinx gets a double. But Jinx has double buffs, so that's really effective in the bot lane. So now, at this point in the game, you should realize, okay, Jinx is super ahead, and she's playing well. And she has double buffs. So I would just never touch bot lane again. Ever. I mean, bot lane should be fine for all intents and purposes, and as well as the fact is they have Janna, so it's already safe in case things go wrong. I mean, realistically, that's all Jinx needs is that little push to be like a hyper carry status.
Yeah.
And continuing to pressure that lane is going to have diminishing returns as you continue to go there. So I think that they're ahead. Top lane would be the primary focus from now on, just because Cho'Gath isn't, Cho'Gath's a pretty neutral character. But Fizz is also ahead, so maybe just farming and objective control is going to be your focus. If Fizz is destroying like this and your bot lane is destroying like this, the natural decision is mid lane pressure. Although I slightly disagree with that. I think that you want to go against that natural tendency a little bit, and try to pressure Dragon really early instead.
Okay.
You can afford to because Jinx is so ahead and Janna is really safe. So even if they even if Udyr is really terrible at trying to challenge dragons, is pretty much what I'm trying to get at here. Udyr is awful at it. He has to walk into the pit or flash over the pit, which is both options are really bad. He has no short range. Short range option. So if instead of going for this pressure right now, you were at dragon, I mean that's potentially a 6.5 minute dragon, and if you look at your bot lane's positioning, they're in position to move up to you and try to pressure this dragon. So it wouldn't actually be that tough. Oh, and
I think
you're
I
just
ended up
top
going
lane, so.
back bot.
Yeah. The early pressure on dragon is important for a bunch of reasons. I'm actually going to pause before this gank so I can explain this a little bit more.
Sure.
The dragon is important, first of all, for the AD, the obvious reasons of it gives you just buffs. But secondly, it's important because Udyr is likely to go Devourer this patch. And dragon is very underrated by a lot of junglers, enemy junglers, against Devourers. When you're playing against a Devourer jungler, your priority over dragon should skyrocket. To like whole new levels, and the reason for that is that it gives 5 stacks on your sated Devourer, which is just completely insane. I mean that's the difference between a 15 and a 17 minute sated Devourer, which can completely change the game. Like all of a sudden, if Udyr gets behind and he has 20 stacks at 15 minutes, which is pretty low. You want it generally sated by 15, 16 minutes. That 5 stacks from dragon is crucial for them to get that sated Devourer and try to push themselves back into the game, or if they're ahead, to push themselves further ahead in the game. So obtaining dragons against Devourer junglers has increased priority.
Okay.
And just for your knowledge, if the double bus on Jinx is so brutal. Anyway, just for your knowledge, if you do start to pick up Devourer junglers, there's currently a bug that you only get. I think you could have killed her.
Yeah?
Yeah, at least got a flash, like for sure. Following up that Q, smiting her, and just hitting E and walking away, it's scary enough to make a flash happen or a heal happen, I think. But regardless, that's okay, it didn't happen. It's just something to keep in mind. Anyway, there's a bug right now that Dragon only gives you the 5 stacks if you last hit it sometimes. Now, I haven't confirmed if it's every single time, but I've seen the bug happen where the jungler just doesn't get an assist on the dragon or doesn't get the stacks for some reason. So just keep that in mind, that you really want to make sure you get the last hit just to ensure that you definitely get the stacks. I don't know exactly how it works. Yeah. I don't know exactly how it works as far as the bug. I just know that sometimes there's that bug going around where if you don't get the last hit, you don't get the stacks. So try to keep that in mind.
Perfect.
Yeah, those 5 stacks are extremely important, and if you haven't played a lot of Devourer, it's hard to understand how important it actually is, but 5 camps, like that takes a long time.
It does.
Also against Devourer junglers, Scuttle Crab control's extra important. So if you're playing a warrior jungler, it's actually pretty easy for you to force Scuttle Crabs away from your opponents, but Scuttle Crabs actually give 2 stacks of sated instead of 1 stack as a normal camp would.
Okay.
So starting to pressure Scuttle Crabs early can deny them that increased sated Devourer time, which is ultimately your goal against any sated Devourer jungler right now, because once they get going, it's really difficult to slow them down.
All right.
Yeah, but this game, I mean, every lane's ahead. Your job as Lee Sin's pretty easy. It's just to slow down Udyr. Like now your focus is on Udyr, right? Everything you should do is to slow down his progress. This should be a kill though, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try to fight the Riven afterwards. I hope you guys don't go too hard on her. Okay, good. Looks like you're gonna leave.
Yeah.
when you see fights like that, picks like that, now your immediate logic, it looks like you're going to the Krugs. Your immediate logic should instead be to say to yourself, okay, what can I gain from this? Where is my benefit from that kill? Because 300 gold is nice and all, but there's more to it than that. When their jungler is dead, you have complete control over their side of the map. They can't control you any longer. They have no restriction over you. You can poke into their jungle, you can gain vision, and you can also gain knowledge, which is really important. So, as Lee Sin versus Udyr, what you can do when Udyr dies, or as any warrior jungler versus any devourer jungler, I should say, is you can poke into their jungle, and first of all, see what buffs are alive, which is the #1 priority. If blue's up, take it. But secondly, you can take their big jungle camps, which is, another option to slow down their stated devourer. So if you go down and you kill Udyr and you just immediately take his big wolf, I mean, it might not seem like a lot. It's 50 gold, and it's a little bit of a trek, but honestly, that slows him down by 45 seconds, 50 seconds to getting his stated devourer every time that you take one of his camps, and that adds up. It really does. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It's my notification that I have a coaching session. Anyway, so yes. Anyway,
So go to get vision on their buffs and such.
yeah, you want to get control over their big camps, their buffs, and even if their camps aren't there, you gain information about how their pathing is, right? You gain access to where they've been moving around the map, and that lets you know how they'll be moving in the future. So if their whole top side's cleared, you can say, oh, well, it's likely he's going to go bot side now, so you can warn your bot side that he's going to be around, or you can ping his red buff if you know it's spawning soon, things like that. You can gain this information, these small advantages. Oh, they're complimenting your team. I like that. That's good. I'm interested to see if you smite the Krugs or not. Good.
I don't think I do. No.
That's good. No, you want to save it for the Raptors here for sure.
Yeah.
What elo is this, by the way? I didn't remember to ask.
This is I'm silver 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
For silver 4, this Jinx is very good.
Yeah.
now that I'm realizing that this is silver 4, that Jinx is playing extremely well.
I didn't smite that.
Yeah, you definitely want to smite the Raptor every time you're there. I make it a conscious priority to have a smite stack up for Raptor, and it's the most important buff by a pretty huge margin, especially on Lee Sin. There's some other champions where it might be, less effective, like Master Yi. I mean, you're farming for 20 minutes until you get Devourer. You're not ganking that often. Even then, you probably want to smite the Raptor camp because it's pretty good, but as Lee Sin especially, your entire MO is early pressure, so being able to clear wards is vital. Now, right here is an example where Scuttle Crab's alive. Killing it's really important. I hope you do. Okay, good.
Yeah.
You saw Udyr's around too. Everyone saw him. So Dragon's clearly unsafe, but it is important to keep in mind that Dragon's there. So if you would have killed it earlier, whenever I suggested, I mean, it would be up 3 minutes from now, which is pretty relevant considering, having a second Dragon at 13 minutes is a huge deal.
Yeah.
In a game like this, it's important, especially with the Janna, it's important to realize your win conditions aren't the same as they would normally be. Your win conditions kind of, not necessarily shrink, but they become more focused around team fighting. Whereas with other comps, it might be more focused on split pushing or Barons and sieging, things like that. This composition is very clearly a team fight comp. You have Janna and Jinx, you're a very mid-late game focused team fight comp, which is why Lee Sin's so good in this comp, because you're able to hold off that early pressure and sort of keep them ahead, even though you didn't really have to this game. I don't know if I agree with jumping in, but it does look like
I got stunned immediately when I jumped in, which was probably my problem.
Yeah. Also, you didn't smite to slow anybody. You have that utility there. You should be utilizing it. If you're not smiting to slow often, you might want to consider a challenging smite. Just if you feel like you're skirmishing more often than chasing.
Okay.
Versus Udyr, I think that the challenging smite's generally better. Just because Udyr's always going to be there to fight you. He's always going to be trying to stand there and fight you. He's very rarely going to... if he's actually fighting you, this challenging smite is always effective. Whereas, there's champions Lee Sin's an example where challenging smite's just not that good. because he's likely to be jumping in and out and can just disengage for the period that he's Founding Smiting.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, killing some jungle camps. That's alright. We're gonna fast forward just a little bit here.
Sure.
While you clear camps. This is a slightly longer VOD, so I want to skip through some of the neutral camps.
Sure.
Okay, so it looks like you're pressuring mid lane. At this point in the game, you changed your mind. That's good. I was just gonna say, like, judging by what's happening on the map, going mid lane, I mean, that wave is gonna be half dead by the time you get there. And bot lane is, very clearly being pressured and is a little bit far out. At the very least, you can gain knowledge about how bot lane's been warding. So you can see, like, oh, is there a ward in this bush? Do they know I'm coming? Things like that, which they do, and they make it very clear they know you're there.
Yeah.
And clearing the pink is good. At this point, I would pink try, I think, as if I were you, right?
Okay.
If you kill a pink and you know 100% you've gained control over the river, and you're in a situation where you have that pink ward or a sweeper, sweeping or warding the tri-bush gives you complete control over bot lane. It allows you to just completely enter their heads. They are afraid to push out, and simultaneously you're able to gank if they disrespect you, with knowledge that they have no idea you're there.
Yeah.
So
right.
just developing full coverage vision is more important than spots of vision, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you understand the concept?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all of these vision and early pressure tips are twice as important on Lee Sin than other junglers, because of what I've mentioned earlier. Yeah, so he has his State of Devourer now. You now know that he's begun stacking, and he has 9 stacks, so he's a third of the way there at 13 minutes, which means that you guys are actually way ahead on him. He is, extremely behind. The only way for him to get his State of Devourer in a timely manner is dragons and, like, killing sprees, so...
Yeah.
Udyr is significantly behind right now. This is really good for you. I would kick Trist immediately, probably. Yeah. I think if you would have kicked Trist there, dedicated a little bit more
that
to
would have been perfect.
Yeah, you would have knocked up both and as well as gotten the double kill, I think. But hey, you got the flash out of Trist. You got a kill. It's not the end of the world. Nothing horrible happened. Although I see again, you didn't Chilling Smite. Like if you would have, back here, if you used your Chilling Smite optimally, I think the kick would have been perfect. Because look, in a situation like this, you're in full control. The only way that this could go poorly. Actually, I'm actually gonna print screen this and draw it out so I can show you. So there's a very limited amount of options that the bot lane has when they see Lee Sin behind them like this. Okay.
All right.
Essentially, like, they see you, obviously, and they've just been alerted, right? Little exclamation point. They've just been alerted that you're here. Their 2 options are Trist can jump to here, jump on you if they wanted to somehow burst you, which we know Leona doesn't have cooldowns, so won't happen. That option's, like, not possible.
Yeah.
Or they're going to try to, like, do some fancy bush stuff where she walks into the bush, waits for you, and, like, tries to jump over you or tries to flash jump something, but which you guys have negated with this ward, which is convenient. But they don't know that, so Leona has nothing. We know that she's just completely out of this picture, so it's just you versus Trist right now as far as pressure goes. So there's only one effective option that Trist can take, and that's this jump. And that's the only way, and we don't know if she has flash. So right now your movements, your pressure, like where your current mouse click is perfect. I really like this mouse input down here, because this is where you should be covering, like this is the zone in which Trist could be. And you actually have flash, so a flash insect kick into your team is not impossible. If you like manage to get to here, you can flash over here, kick her up this way, in this direction. So in general, this movement's really solid. As this plays out, we know that Leona walks this way, Trist kind of walks this way, and they end up in like this perfect kick range.
Yeah.
But in this situation, all right, you need to limit Trist's movement, because as she gets further in this direction, she gains more and more escapes. She can then jump to several more safe zones across this line of scrimmage, per se. You can kick Trist out of her jump, so that's relevant in this case. Okay. But aside from that, your only other option to limit her assuming she doesn't jump right away, is to chilling smite her. So chilling smite range is, you know, roughly right here right now. So as you get closer, as you arrive at this spot, you can then chilling smite her, and acquire, you know, it limits her movement by a lot and may cause a panic jump. And if by that point, let's say she moves to here, okay? Let's say you chilling smite her at that point, and she begins, and you're here, and she begins to jump in this direction, or, you know, this direction.
Yeah.
She's slowed, so that panic response is predictable, right?
Yeah.
She can no longer walk away from this fight. You know she's going to jump 100% or 98% of the time. If she's going to jump that direction, you know that that's happening. You know.
Yeah.
So a flash kick or a movement downward and a kick, in general, are both possible. You could even kick her sideways into this wall, and I think it would be effective, and it's slightly less mechanically difficult.
Yeah.
So in general, you have a lot of options to cover this Tristana's movement. And you gain options, and you gain a massive amount of control. You turn her movement into a 100% option by chilling smiting her. She can't just walk into a better position.
Yeah.
But because you don't do that, we're going to watch what actually happens. Where
Sure.
So she moves exactly where we thought, right? Exactly the way we thought, and you move exactly where we want you to, but you don't chilling smite. So now her options expand, right? She now is able to jump up away from you, down away from you. She's able to just walk in any direction and not be that fearful, unless you're incredibly aggressive and like flash kick or something. But yeah, in more or less, this should be a double kill 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Even if you flash kick her into Leona, even if you ward jump W, if you had a ward, you don't have trinket, but if you had trinket, you ward jump kick her. There's a million options for Lee Sin to turn this into a beneficial play. But instead,
I was trying to spam kick. I guess I was too far out of range.
Yeah, you got a little antsy, is I think what happened. I think you got anxious in the moment, because this moment is that moment where your heart kind of jumps, where you're like, oh, I have this awesome opportunity. You get a little excited, and your movement at first, your instinct was perfect. Your instinct was to move down and cover her option, and that's the perfect instinct. But watch where your mouse goes. Watch how you start to second guess yourself, and you can see it in your movements. So your mouse moves up here, and you click on Tristana at first because you're anxious. You think she's going to jump, maybe you're going to catch her kick, but you actually click the button and your movement changes. You stop covering the option, and you move towards her. And as you move towards her, you missed this kick opportunity, which was very close, but mainly because you clicked up. Yeah. Now, this mouse control is really important. Knowing where your mouse cursor is and why you're moving to a location is something that you can work on. Because right now you're seeing, I forgot to double click, maybe do that. You see your mouse is there, and then your mouse does this strange thing where you move your mouse up and you click up towards this wall. Can you see that?
Let's see. That should be a perfect kick right there.
Yeah, well, it should be a perfect kick. Even if you just let go of your mouse and keyboard right now, the ability's queued up. Like, this is a perfect play. But I'm not sure why, but this input to the north, this kind of throws off the entire play. And I think it's a nervous click. It's a you feel the need to micro around a little bit more kind of kick. Sometimes you just kind of need to take what's given to you. Calm down, take a deep breath, make the play happen. And that's just something that can be worked on there.
So that was my mistake.
Yep, that was your primary mistake, is moving upward and not covering the option. Covering the option is really what I want you to focus on. Less so that you made a mistake. More so that covering the option your instinct was correct. So trusting your instinct is important, I guess I should say. That's the best way to summarize it, I think, because your instinct in that situation was good. But then you got a little antsy, you got excited. But that's okay. You made the best of the bad situation. At least you made the kick and didn't flash out or something. You didn't get fearful of the play. You were willing to step into it. I always like to say that coaching an aggressive player to be more passive and to be more calm is much easier than coaching the calm player to become more aggressive. So at least you're in the right position at the right time. You're realizing your mistakes. I think you just need to execute. Okay, so at this point, you guys all kind of move middle. Did you guys kill bot turret?
Yes.
Okay, I can't see right now because of the YouTube video.
Yeah,
okay,
we got it.
Good. Right now, I think instead of moving middle, you're kind of low, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, I wish that this YouTube bar would disappear forever. I wish I could never see it again. I really would like to see your gold. Okay, you have 1441 gold. That's about what I thought. You can afford to go back to base and buy items to heal up and to then ready for another push.
Okay.
Because right now, realistically, there's no way you get this mid turret. I mean, Jace is alive. Udyr's alive. If their bot lane support Tristana decides to move up, they have wave clear. It's not like you guys have a free tower. I'm not quite sure why everyone even rotated middle. I mean, realistically, there's not a whole lot to gain. There's no objective here. You're kind of all just following the leader a little bit, I think, which is, it's a natural decision, but it's something that you have to fight against.
Okay.
So going back to base and buying items, I think, is optimal after an advantage like that with the health that you're at. If you really don't feel like going back to base is the best decision, you could walk into their jungle and just queue at red buff, find out if it's alive, get some sort of timer, maybe pressure their raptors, take their big raptor, something like that. But this is a good adaptation on the Riven. I like that you moved over in time, and I don't even mind that you took the kill. Actually, I think that on Lee Sin that's totally an okay thing to do. Something I'm noticing you're not doing is shielding yourself. I mean, against jungle creeps, spamming your W is really important. And not just double tapping it like you did. You need to maximize the way you use your passive. It's a little bit less important this late in the game, but I wasn't watching during your first.
Early on, I was doing it.
Were you? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Do you run? What runes do you run on Lee Sin?
I don't know. I don't have that many rune pages. I'm working on improving that right now.
Okay.
I've only got 2. I've got an attack damage and an ability power one.
Okay. If Lee Sin is one of your main characters, one of your priorities would likely be to get some cooldown reduction blues.
Okay.
You want to get 5% cooldown reduction, which sounds a little silly, I know. 5% cooldown reduction on Lee Sin allows you to keep your W up, your passive up full time in the jungle during your first clear, and increases your clear by about 15 seconds. Just a fun fact. Because you'll be able to safely clear your jungle at high HPs, and you'll keep your passive up 100% of the time during your first clear, which is just faster.
Okay.
5% cooldown is it's about 6 blues, in case you didn't know. And they're pretty cheap if I recall. I don't know for sure, but I'd have to check that. But something to keep in mind is that's a nice little tech that Lee Sin players use, or Lee Sin only players use, is whenever they're jungling, they use 5% cooldown reduction. The way it actually works is there's a little overlap, or like an awkward period between using your Q and your W, and then you having an ability up again. There's more than an 8-second downtime.
Yeah.
If you don't have 5% CDR. Otherwise, if you do though, you can shield, and then once the shield's gone, then you can spell vamp, lifesteal. Not spell vamp. Yeah, lifesteal. Yeah, I don't think you're spell vamping on Lee Sin. No, yeah, and then lifesteal, and then your shield should be up again, within a second. So you're 2 seconds. So yeah, it's 5% CDR. It's like a whole different play style, and you'll also, it feels smoother. It feels much better to play him that way. Right now, this is a really risky play. I think you moving in there is pretty risky, knowing that Jace is covering that option. Now, they made a mistake as a team, but I want to show you why that this is a slight mistake, I think. So, right now, even a little bit before this. So, you take this huge chunk, right? Like your health is pretty low. If you watch the minimap, you can very clearly see Leona walking towards you, right? They have some sort of vision of you, which is clear. Leona would not make that movement ever if they didn't know where you were. I mean, think about a situation in which Leona walks into that side brush for any other reason. Like, is she going to farm raptors? I'm pretty sure that's a no. And unless she's going to ward, which, I mean, she's not. You can tell. She then turns around immediately. You now know, based on Leona's movement, that she knows where you are. Like, she can see you when you're at least in this section. In this area. You don't know if the ward's in this bush or over here, but either way, you need to respect the fact that they have vision of this zone. So walking back this way is a really huge risk. I mean, Leona can, target you over this wall. Trist is right here. If she can see you, she can jump on you. And then also, Jace is around. You've seen him recently. And then later we find out that he's actually right here, and he attempts to EQ you. So you see them
so
place
ward
this
just
ward.
went down.
Yeah, you see them place this ward for sure now. So we know now that that's why Leona walked into the bush, was to gain the vision, and now they have it. Immediately upon seeing this, you should be terrified for your life. But Tristana walks away, and we actually see that Jace is right here the entire time. So that you were in a lot more danger than initially thought. But you guys are chasing ahead, and this is pretty safe now that you're with your teammates.
Yeah.
Especially now that Janna's arrived. So you're just pushing in. I think kicking him would just be like the cover all options play. It gets you out of that situation. That's a good kick on Leona. I like that. Having that Janna disengage is pretty solid. And you have massive damage. You got Jace's flash. I don't know how you feel about timing flashes, but it's just a benefit. Timing a Jace flash there. Once again, especially as Lee Sin, who has all this early pressure and can gank repeatedly over and over again with very little input. It's a pretty safe option to time the flashes. It has no negative drawback, and it only improves your ganks. So.
Okay.
Saying, just something like Jace F in chat and then add 5 minutes, right? It's just a mental math kind of deal.
Got it.
You don't necessarily have to do it all at once. Even if you remember a minute and a half later, trying to estimate can still net you a benefit. Yeah, it can help you. So this is a good call that Tristana. I really like that decision to wait in that bush and watch Tristana's movement, because that's a very realistic pick. I like that type of thought process that's happening. That, okay, I'm strong, I'm able to pick, this is my role as a jungler. What I don't like is that you're doing it while they have mid lane control. Okay? I like the thought process, I hate the timing. Because right now, mid lane, they have 2 members mid lane pushed past the center of mid lane. Okay. And you have 1 Sightstone proc, I apologize. You do have a way out, but, even then, it's a really scary decision. At least you have good vision. It's not the worst decision ever, because you have good vision, you have a ward. I thought you didn't have a ward, which is why I specifically didn't like it. But you have ward coverage. It's a fairly safe decision to stand there and say, hey, I can make this happen. You also get an exhaust, which is what the fuck. Yeah. I don't know why she exhausted you, but you take those.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how that works. That ability. I don't think that you can jump to Triana with your Q.
Unfortunately. I don't know what I was doing with that.
That's okay. It's like I said, mechanical issues like that are, blunders. They aren't a huge deal. They aren't a focus. They happen to everyone. Yep, you can pressure this huge. I would lead this with a kick if I were you. I would just instantly kick her. I wouldn't even Q first half the time.
Okay.
If I were you in this situation, I like your positioning here, but I think I'm going to show you exactly why in paint real quick. So basically, when you're in this type of situation where you have her cut off, it's a guaranteed kill. The only way she gets out is jumping, very clearly. But her jump range ends about here, or like on this line. If that's her coverage, that means you, as Lee Sin, can position yourself a lot closer. You can position yourself like here or here, and you actually cover her jump with your kick. Because like I said, it can cancel her kick. And if you're up here, which is this is the preferred position, I think, but it's the more advanced position, is when she jumps, it's a slow jump. If you're positioned here or here, because there's this stub in the way, you're able to kick downward or in this direction. Either way, depending on how fast your reaction time is, it's likely to be this way, because she's going to start the jump and you're going to kick her. And the animation casts, and then she's into this wall. But you stun her into this wall or into this stub. I don't know exactly how that would actually work. I think she goes over it and pushes into the wall.
Probably.
Yeah, but either way, she's stunned into the wall for the duration, and you get a free Q on her. Free. There's no way you can miss it. By standing over here, you're bringing in a lot more random chance, right? Because you're throwing this max range Q, which your Q range. Oops, I don't want to save that. I wanted to go back. Your Q range ends probably like on top of her. So, this is the furthest and the most risky Q that you could possibly throw. And I think that your Q is necessary in landing this kill. So missing your Q just ends the kill potential, or at least severely hurts it. So like right now, like this position you're in, maybe like 85% kill, but a situation in which you're here and you cover her option closer, that's a 100% kill, because there's the only way that you can fail that kill is mechanical mistakes, which shouldn't be factored into hypothetical situations. So I like that it worked. It's good that it worked. It wasn't a bad play, but it wasn't the optimal play. And that can be said for a lot of situations. And a lot of times when you're in situations like that, this goes for any champion with a targeted stun or skill shot. Sometimes it's better to hold the skill shot and wait for your opponent to make a decision and make them respect that skill shot than it is to use the skill shot immediately. That was really prevalent when Elise was popular. The best Elise players this is a fun fact, would often just not cocoon in ganks until the enemy player made a decision to flash or to use their movement ability. They would not lead with cocoon. They would hold cocoon and force the opponent to respect the fact that cocoon could come out at any time.
Yeah.
So it's just the same logic except with Lee Sin Q.
Okay.
Does that all make sense? Feel free to
Yeah.
ask questions. If you want a clarification, I'm happy to.
No, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, right now, Raven's up, or Raptor's up. That's a free ward clear. It's worth smiting over, I think. You also have Scanner, which is a good upgrade. I really like the fact that you bought Scanner and Sightstone. That's, not a very silver mentality, which is why I like it. Silver players are all about getting that, Brutalizer, Last Whisper or something. And
I like having the Sightstone because it's Lee Sin.
It's movement, it's vision control, and you get a Scanner.
Help. And
every
help.
single way. Yeah, and help. In every single way, it benefits Lee Sin and lets you carry harder. So I like it a lot. Unless you're super fucking fed. If you get 10 kills in 10 minutes, then maybe then you don't go Sightstone. But otherwise, Sightstone is always better. That was weird. Did you lag?
Yeah, I
or
lagged
did she
a lot.
lag? Okay.
I had a bit of lag in this game.
Okay,
I was
that's
playing
fine.
at a friend's house.
That's fine. It happens to me sometimes too. That kick is really nice. That was exactly the kick I was hoping you would get.
But Tristana made it out, and that was my mistake.
Yeah, I think that was just mechanical mistake right there. If you would have queued immediately, if you weren't lagging, perhaps, some stuff can happen. And it's all good. You even apologize to your team, which, couldn't be better. You admit your mistake, and that's half the battle with League players. The only challenge that I see right now is Riven's pushing top, which is something you need to acknowledge. You can't leave her up there forever. Talking with Cho'Gath, saying either you covering it or saying Cho'Gath, you need to go top. Both are really important here. This game, I actually wouldn't go Maw of Malmortis. I would go for the Hydra. But most games, I really like Maw against any Runeglaive carry. Like Maw
I was trying to decide what I should do.
And it isn't an easy decision. So I like this decision too. I don't mind Tiamat into tank. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's a play style choice. I really like that you critically thought about the opponent's team comp. You could see it. Like you could see that you looked at your opponent's team comp, you thought about your itemization, and then you purchased items. And that's something that even Dyrus is struggling with. There's a little prod at yesterday. But every player struggles with, and I'm glad that you took the time to look at that and build the Warden's Mail. So yeah, I like that this is your decision. I think that this is definitely the highest win % decision. Although the carry decision is to build the Hydra. If you're playing for the team, this is definitely the best option. This movement is a little goofy.
Yeah.
I think that could have definitely been played better. I don't know. It didn't look like you were lagging latency-wise, so I think that this is probably just a bad decision. Let's watch this again and sort of go over how you can do this slightly better. Okay, so
Sure.
You walk into this. You have control. You're not out of position yet. So right now you're in position. This is fine. You see him killing that Scuttle Crab, and like I said, that gives him 2 stacks of Devourer. Trying to deny it's really important. And he doesn't even have sated yet at fucking 23 minutes, which is abysmal. So you were destroying this guy. So that's definitely good. Okay, so he's killing the Scuttle Crab. You see it's not even close to dead, so trying to fight over it's not that important. More pressuring him is important. The fact that he's not retreating is a little worrisome. But I mean, in silver, he could just be misplaying. So respecting that too much, I think, is a mistake here. He runs up and stuns you now, which is you don't want to fight him. You're gonna lose almost all the time. This is just the case of Lee Sin versus Udyr, is you can very rarely win that 1v1.
Okay.
You more often just have more impact over team fights and more utility. So, first of all, use your Tiamat. That's the first thing I want to say.
Okay.
Second of all, in this type of situation, look at your positioning right now. There is a play, and do you see the play that's at your disposal here? The 100% escape play. Like there are two.
Jumping to Fizz.
Okay, that's the one, and that's the obvious one. But that's the one I want to show you is a little bit more complicated. But there is a play here that is 100% of the time going to get you out of the situation. So right now you have your Q on him.
Okay.
It is, and you see Riven, who is very scary for you right now because you're low health and she doesn't execute. Mid lane is MIA, but we're not going to worry about that for right now because he can't solo you. The one play, you can just W to Fizz, walk away. But the slightly more effective play, in my opinion, considering that Fizz is here and your mid laner is looking your direction, you can see Cho'Gath moving up, and don't forget the fact that Udyr has Ghost on, which is easily forgotten, and he is running at you. So right now, I would hit the Q button again. I would arrive at Udyr in less than a second, right? I would flash up to this direction, or actually, sorry. I would flash here, and you kick Udyr in this direction, and he lands right here, which is where Riven is likely to be a second and a half from now.
Yeah.
That covers the only way that this play is not perfect is if Riven reads this play and ease away from you, which is where she doesn't take damage, and you've disengaged the fight, so you've gotten out of this fight scot-free when you're in a very bad position right now, right?
I see.
Also, this kick does significant damage to both Udyr and Riven, which allows Fizz to sort of clean up the fight because he's pretty strong right now.
Yeah.
And he has doubles, which, holy shit. This flash kick play, it's more complicated. These types of plays, you should start thinking about them.
Okay.
As you get better at Lee Sin, as you feel more confident flash kicking, these are plays that are incredibly effective. They can change the tide of fights. They can change, they can save your life 1,000,000 times over. It's pretty obvious how this is an effective play, right? Or should I go into more depth? Okay. Plays like this, they also look really flashy, which doesn't have effect usually. So if I was talking about rank 5s, it doesn't have any effect. But plays like that can actually have a morale effect on your team as well. When was the last time you saw a Lee Sin flash kick disengage a fight and you weren't like, oh, this Lee Sin's a good player? Immediately you begin to trust that Lee Sin, which is, that's an honest thing that happens. That's natural. So you end up being in this position where you could have kicked anyway, but then you kick at the last second.
Yeah, I got stunned.
Yeah, you get stunned. So if you would have done the kick, perhaps you live here. I think you likely live here. And I think your Fizz likely lives as well, actually. So,
okay.
The fight doesn't go poorly. It goes okay. I think it's 2 for 1. I can't see right now. No, it's 2 for 2. So it's not bad, but it could be better. Plays like that can happen all through the game. Flash kick is one of the primary strategies on Lee Sin.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now there's not a whole lot going on. Let's fast forward just a little bit. You killed some minions. You pinged a dragon, which is good that you check the dragon timer and it's coming up. Scuttlecrab's not up, unfortunately, but this is exactly what I was talking about with Udyr. This guy's the least threatening jungler of all time right now. He can't do anything to threaten you. I would just hit the dragon. Quite honestly, versus Udyr, you can just start that dragon every single time. The only danger here is Jace poking at you. Which your whole team is here. It's not even it's that huge a deal, and
Probably
he does no damage.
Earlier then.
Yeah, you should definitely have started this about 10 seconds ago. Yep, you gave their enemy team time to arrive, which I don't think is going to matter in this case, but definitely something that you could have prevented by starting that dragon sooner.
Yeah.
You also have a shit ton of damage, so it's gonna die quickly. That's unfortunate. Um, right here, you had another potential way to enter this fight. You see, I'm sure you felt very shut out of this fight, sort of like you missed your cue, you can't get in. It's a little bit frustrating at times on Lee Sin when you're out like that. You did have a way to get in though, which so right here your Q unfortunately gets missed, right? I mean, this isn't your fault. There's nothing you could have done here. Janna just ults. So right now, immediately, your thought process should be, I want to get into that fight, and it clearly is. You don't see the play. So to sort of enlighten you, you have 2 wards on your Sightstone, and your ward jump goes over this wall. So I mean, it's really simple. And look, your positioning's even perfect.
Yeah.
All you have to do is place your ward. It lands over the wall. You can W over, and it even potentially sets you up for kicks. I mean, realistically, like this could set you up for a triple kick if you do it fast enough. I'm sure you can see that. And I mean, as it goes through, I mean, then Tristana walks in. There's 100 benefits to jumping over that wall, which you end up getting in anyway using the W on the ward and the try. But I think that it could have been more immediate, and you could have been in a slightly better position. Which, small positioning mistakes like that, they don't seem like a lot while I'm talking to you about them, but I promise you that they have very apparent benefit once you start executing them on the regular basis. You'll start seeing an extra kill in team fights, or you'll start living through team fights more often. Your deaths lower every game. Your average deaths, your average kills over 1,000 games go up by 10%, and that's a huge margin.
Yeah.
That's how you win games. That's how the best players carry, is because of that extra 10%.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see you leave your Q on this Baron here. You get it anyway, but I really like the idea of 1,500 health. You Q the Baron and you leave it on Baron, just for the execute with your smite simultaneously, right?
Okay.
And I like this positioning until you walk downward, which and you could have lived by shielding yourself.
Yeah, I realized that after. I remember saying that.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. Like I said, mechanical mistakes, blunders, they happen. It's a good Jinx rocket, but doesn't quite get it. Okay, let's fast forward through your death. I feel like in general you're playing Lee Sin really effectively. You're itemizing properly, so I like that. You're definitely playing well. There's just positioning issues in the higher mechanical level of Lee Sin. The requirements of Lee Sin are much higher than any other champion, I think, in the jungle right now. It is very hard to win games and to carry games as Lee Sin. It takes that extra level of mechanical prowess and like the ability to see those plays that I've been talking about to really carry as him right now, just because he's not a T1 jungler. He's a T3 jungler likely, which doesn't mean he's unwinnable. There's still like value to playing him, but it's definitely diminished in the past 2 patches. You can kick him away. You can It seems like a recurring problem in your play is that you're afraid to use your kick as if it's like some long cooldown. Your kick is a minute long cooldown. You should use that every single time. Like you want to if you technically want to play this game perfectly, you should be using every ultimate like every time it comes up. But that's not realistic. But that is the goal, right? Is to be the best that you could possibly play. And in this game, as this character, using your ulti every minute is technically perfect. If you put yourself in that type of position.
Yeah.
Using it, if you feel like, I could kick them here, most of the time it's a good option too, unless you're like, disengaging a fight that you're winning or something.
I see.
Okay, so you guys are just starting to roll through. This is good.
Yeah.
I really, as Lee Sin, you pretty much have like a 5-minute window to win this game as of right now. Because if you give them about 5 more minutes to scale, your champion becomes very difficult to have an impact over the game with.
Yeah.
I would recommend getting in on every fight like this, if possible, for the rest of the game. Because fights like this are where Lee Sin just shines. You're able to split up their team, you're able to disengage. Like, the same reason that, Singed and tank top laners are really strong is their disruption mechanics. And you're playing a champion that just has one of the best disruption mechanics in the game. So getting into those messy fights, those solo QE fights, is really effective on this, and just getting in the middle and starting to kick people away and make people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But like I said, yeah, that 5 minute window is very real. I mean, once you sort of fall off of your base damages, once Udyr gets his Thorn Mail and his 2 unhit items, and he starts to really tear apart your team, you're gonna really struggle to find that effectiveness and that ability to win. And usually once that happens, it's better to just go full tank. Like honestly, 2 damage items and then full tank on Lee Sin. And if you get to 6 items, let's say God forbid you get to 50 minutes on Lee Sin, which is like the worst case scenario, sell those 2 items and go full tank and try to just hit people. Like, I mean, realistically,
And try to kick.
yeah, try to kick and disrupt as much as possible, because that your role deteriorates as the game goes on by a pretty significant margin.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it seems like Fizz went pretty tanky this game, which is, I think, at a detriment to your team. You guys lack damage. You guys lack late game damage. You have a lot of early mid game base damages.
Other than Jinx, we don't have much.
Yeah, you have Jinx and some Cho'Gath if he hits stuff. You guys have, it's pretty apparent once I mention it, I think, that your composition lacks that late game damage, so you need to make sure that there's that threat. It's going to be a real problem for you guys. There's definitely a timer on this team composition. Your only saving grace is Jinx and the fact that she's a late game monster. You need to be using your Tiamat. Again, you need to be using your Tiamat more often, I think.
Okay.
I'm seeing a lot of situations where you're just not hitting the button. That thing has a 10-second cooldown. Like, just mash it.
Yeah.
It seems to be that all your cooldowns get held a little bit too long, if that makes sense. You think a little bit too long about or maybe you don't think about using Tiamat, but with your basic abilities, you think really you think a lot about when you're going to use them, and like as if you're afraid to use the cooldown. But on a resourceless champion like Lee Sin, sometimes just executing is more important than thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if the play's wrong, at least you learn from the decision rather than waiting too long to make the decision happen.
Yeah.
That's a good cue. You see, in a situation like that, you could definitely follow that cue and kick.
I think I was trying
Tristan
to, but I was
into
a
base.
little out of range for that.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I actually want to rewatch it then and find out.
Yeah.
Because that was a really good cue, for sure. Yeah, you were out of range.
Yeah, just the flash.
Totally. Yep.
But Jinx got it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pushing the limits of Lee Sin is really difficult, but it's also really rewarding. So
Mm-hmm.
plays like that where you end up flying into the middle of their team and kicking both their carries into your team, those are hero plays. Those are the ones that you live for as Lee Sin. Those are the ones that you're like, put a smile on your face after. It's good that you got that inhib, and this Baron is super important, so I think this call is fantastic. Baron for you guys is right now in this game, if you were to just be, because right now you have to realize that you're starting to fall off, right? Like even in the game it feels that way. You need to realize your win conditions, because sometimes it's easy to get demoralized if you lose a fight, or if you start to realize your damage is reducing.
Yeah.
If you ever feel that way, just take a deep breath, look at your team comp, and ask yourself, what are my win conditions? Okay, how do I destroy their Nexus? Yeah. And as stupid as that sounds, it's a question that if you can answer it, you then have that direction that you lost, right? You found that you can reclaim that direction, or that that priority. So right now, the best way that you guys can win is having Baron and sieging as 5, because you guys are very strong as 5. You have Jinx to pressure, and as long as you keep Jinx alive, she's going to be able to tear stuff apart.
Yeah.
You have a really safe backline. I think as Lee Sin, you mostly want to be peeling at this point in the game. You have Janna and Yu, and if Janna and Yu are sitting on top of Jinx, it's extremely hard for them to kill her, especially with just an Udyr who can do nothing but run at her.
Yeah.
It's a common mistake as Lee Sin's to just constantly be in that I have to dive the backline mode, but Lee Sin's actually a fantastic peel champion as the game progresses, especially for champions like Udyr. Actually, and Riven. So Okay, so misses the fish. That's actually not that bad for you guys. You guys don't really want to engage on them. You kind of just want to enforce your will, like slowly push into them and let them engage on you.
Yeah.
So it's okay that he missed fish. It's not the end of the world. Use T-Mat, yay.
Yeah, I tend to use it when I'm farming.
Yeah.
I don't use it in fights.
Okay. Yeah, throwing Qs is on cooldown is advisable. I think that's perfectly fine. Throw those Qs out, even if they're just to develop a zone and to sort of show them that you're not afraid to throw your Q out. I like that. Okay, going red buff. I'd give the red buff to Jinx, but if you take it,
She's a little far away.
Yeah, she is a little far, so it's not that. Like I said, it's not a huge deal. But usually, I'd ping the red and say, "Hey, Jinx, red's there if you want it," because bot lane's not necessarily your priority now anyway. I think grouping right now while you have Baron is your priority, not Raptors. Yeah. I think that's the important thing, is that you're at Raptors right now, and your entire team is bot lane with Baron. So,
Yeah, okay.
Objective decision making would take you down there, I think, because realistically, what Raptors gives you that 100 gold, but I mean, 100 gold's nothing, at all compared to the Baron push that you guys could be doing right now. That's some real damage towards winning the game.
So yeah, the mistake.
Just
go there. You gotta go bot on me.
Yep, and that's okay. That's why we're here. We're learning. So mistakes like that are going to happen. So going bottom in this situation, when you have Baron, grouping is the number one priority. Even if you're not sure, if you're in a situation where you're like, I don't know if they need me, it can never ever hurt to ask. Just say it in chat. Like, hey, do you guys need me bottom? Like, or do you guys need me? It's a really easy question, and a lot of the times you're going to get a calm and collected answer because that's a very objective way to ask the question.
This is a big mistake by me.
Yeah, trying to chase in after that Udyr is a little bit curious. Like I said earlier, your damage is just deteriorating at this point, and fights like this are where this comp can start to snowball backwards. Thank fucking God your Fizz is overpowered. Like, I mean, realistically...
He did very well.
Fizz is a crazy champion. I'd recommend banning him, by the way, if you're ever first pick. He is really strong right now. Every Fizz I've seen over the last 2 days has hard carried the games they were in. That's anecdotal, but it's something. Yep, you said that after the fact of not using the advantage, which I think is a little bit hypocritical.
once I actually sat down and thought about it.
Yeah, it's slightly hypocritical. That's okay. At least you realized it at some point, which is better than most players. So level 16 is really big for Lee Sin. Your kick does massive base damage. You should just be using that kick for borderline harassment at this point. If there's not a team fight coming up, like if Udyr walks up to you, just kick him away. Don't even let him stun you, because if he stuns you and their team converges on you, you're gonna die really fast. And sometimes it's more important to just have a full health bar for the fight than it is to have the kick during the fight. Like dead as fuck. All right, nice, very good catch. Very good catch. The kick was fine. The kick
probably didn't need it.
I think that you might not have needed it, but he had a window where flash was an option, and you disabled that window by kicking. So I don't think that is bad in any form. You're trying to give the red buff. I respect that. Take it. Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta.
Yeah.
You guys can push bot lane here. Oh, we're dragon respawn. Yeah.
I think it's drag 5.
Is it the 5th? I thought you guys only had 3.
I think it's 5.
Maybe I miscounted. It is. You have 4 buffs on the bottom right. You're right. Yeah. This is an incredibly important dragon in this end of the game. So I assume you guys just went after this.
I think so.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Left in the video.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to check. I'd ruin the surprise. Okay, that's over.
Yeah.
But if you're ever in a game, so this has happened to me several times on Lee Sin, and several individuals I've coached on Lee Sin, where Lee Sin gets a point at 45 minutes where he is dealing low damage, but your team has a lot of dragons because of the early game pressure.
Yeah.
This is if you find yourself getting dragons over and over again. Like you get the 5th dragon buff more than once and you just can't end the game. Usually that means you have too much damage on your item build as Lee Sin. Because how the 5th dragon buff works is it basically turns tanks into damage carries without any itemization. So what you want to do is you want to build, like if you can go back to base and you have too much gold and it's end game, sell all your damage items, buy full tank, go as tanky as possible, and then secure that next 5th dragon, and you'll find yourself winning the game that way pretty often, actually. Because, I mean, it turns you into the damage threat that still can live through jumping in. So it's a pretty terrifying... Lee Sin with 5th dragon is one of the strongest characters with 5th dragon, I think, in my honest opinion. A full tank Lee Sin, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, so then we just
end the game.
Clean up.
Okay, cool. Is a summary of what I think this game you could take from. Basically, be more execute quicker on your decision making because your instinct has been very on point throughout the game. Your natural movement, like the way that you want to position yourself, has been effective. And then once you start overthinking it, I notice that you make mistakes.
Okay.
Also, taking more advantage of the kills you get as Lee Sin early game. I mean, you killed the Udyr at that one point and you didn't walk into his jungle at all, things like that. That's really important on Lee. You need to push every ounce of advantage you possibly can. You want to squeeze every bit out. Because you need to make those 30 minutes last, or 30 minutes count, because afterwards it gets really hard for you.
Okay.
Finally, versus Devourer junglers, you need to be able to be denying as many scuttles and dragons as possible. And as Lee Sin period, pressuring dragon really early is easy and effective. If your bot lane is ahead, dragon is free. That should be your mindset. Almost every game is, almost every jungler. If your bot lane is ahead, dragon is an option at all times.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Do you have any other questions about the game or any, even if you have disagreements or anything that you want to talk through, I'm happy to.
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay.
That was good. Very useful.
Okay, cool. If you have any final questions, I'll take them now, and then after that we'll sort of end the VOD and finish up.
Yeah, not that I can think of. Yeah,
Okay.
you really explain things in depth.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm going to stop recording this for a minute, and we're going to finish talking about a few more things. So.